From a very young age, I've always felt like I'm just not constrained by borders. I think of myself as global talent, someone who can shape the world wherever I land.
You decided actually to go to China. You went to medical school there. You have referred to this time as probably the most transformative experience in your life.
I left Uganda at that time to go to China, not speaking the language at all. I said, I'm not going to do anything in English. I'll do everything in Mandarin Chinese.
You've always had a passion for music, and this started to become more visible in China, of all places.
All my raps, all my performances were in Mandarin Chinese. So I'd study, I do my prep in the evening up to 9 o'clock. 11 o'clock, I'm on stage, I'm performing, my backup dancers. By 11:30, I'm done, I'm out, and I'm back to bed, asleep. And at 8 o'clock, I'm in class again for the next day of classes. I got a manager after that in mainland China. I did tours. It was actually 60,000.
60,000?
I did a stadium.
You're now chief of staff, which I know is a very misunderstood role, particularly in the corporate world.
Being a chief of staff in my current role is what I call SOS. Lots of strategy, lots of operations, and lots of sandwiches. What I'm learning is how do I get the best out of each and every individual to make sure we are keeping our eyes on the prize and doing the best for the company, the patients that rely on us, and the communities who are relying on us because they cannot wait.
Welcome. This is the How I Crushed It podcast, the podcast that shines a light on talent in the community. I'm Tunde, and this is part of a special Elevate series of the How I Crushed It podcast, proudly brought to you in partnership with the Black British Business Awards. Now, with the 2025 event that took place a few months ago, we are shining a light on some incredible past winners, celebrating their journeys, their successes, and the powerful impact they've made in their industries and in their communities. This week on the podcast, we have on Dr Serufusa Sekidde. Serufusa is a healthcare leader, medical doctor, and currently serving as chief of staff to the CEO at ViiV Healthcare, part of the GSK organisation. Throughout his career, he's been an advocate for social change and healthcare equity, not only through his medical and corporate career, but also through music. Yes, Serufusa has also had music career, and in 2021 he came out with the album called the Solutionary Manifesto, so I will definitely be asking him about that. He's also been recognised and received numerous awards across his career, and he was recognised as one of Africa's 100 dynamic leaders by Africa's Leaders magazine. This is me with Serufusa Sekidde. So Serufusa, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited, very delighted, and it's going to be amazing.
For people at home, Serufusa's got his own podcast, so I won't call you a veteran, but you've obviously been in front of the cameras before, so yeah. I'm sure.
And as I keep on saying, I'm yet to meet a camera or a mic that doesn't love me. So let's see how this goes. Huh?
Love it. Okay. So taking it right back to the beginning. You're a Ugandan, but you were born in Kenya.
Yes.
So how was life for you growing up as a kid back in Kenya?
Life was lovely. Life was great. Life was just full of possibilities. Life was just full of amazing things. And it was great. We didn't grow up with much because my parents moved from Uganda to Kenya because at that time there was persecution, there was a lot of war, there was the time of Idi Amin. So we were all born in Kenya and we didn't grow up with much, but we never felt like we lacked anything. And so that's always been my philosophy in life. Like you just make do with what you have and just keep on trudging on.
So how big were the family?
So I'm from a family, it sounds like a big family, and my cousins and my others will be really mad if I talk about just my nuclear family because, as you know, African concept, our family is huge. So I keep on finding cousins and relatives and others everywhere I go. I bet if you throw a stone or if you throw me anywhere in the world, I'll find cousins, uncles or aunties that I have. But the nuclear family, we are one of 4 brothers. So we are 4 of us, 4 brothers. And I am the... Maybe I'd like to guess. What do you think? I'm the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, or the 4th?
It's interesting. I would say second from last. And I don't know this generally. I don't know what the answer is, but second from last.
Yeah. Why is that? Tell me.
I mean, I think sometimes, and people may disagree with me on this, but firstborns are often quite, they have to be, I find them sometimes quite bossy. because they're they're there, they've got all the responsibility,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they have to take that on their shoulders.
yeah.
And then yeah, it was just a guess.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
No,
just a guess.
actually, I'm the second born. I'm the
Second born.
same. Yeah,
Ah,
I'm the
okay,
second born.
okay,
So,
okay.
but I wish people would see me as the firstborn. Like I've always wanted to be seen and to be the firstborn
Mm.
because, once again, growing up through the challenges that we went through the life that we've had, and through my experiences in the corporate world and elsewhere, like I've always wanted to step up and take up more responsibility, and it's something I always welcome. It's been a feature of my life, and that's been shaped by what I did growing up as in against the four boys. And the four of us, I mean, at that time, now we are quite amicable. We work really well, but I just remember us fighting a lot as four boys. So, I mean, bless my mom, mostly, and my dad, obviously, but bless my mom who had to manage the four of us, and it was such a heavy task. But I think we turned out okay. We turned out okay.
It's not uncommon, is it, for boys to be fighting? I mean, I know I fought with my brother quite a lot when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So you're second born, and what kind of kid were you? I know I read one of your interviews. You said you were quite inquisitive as a young child.
Yeah, and I think curiosity has always shaped my life.
Mm.
Curiosity for life, curiosity to make things better, curiosity to find out what's the why behind the why. And I think I've always been like that. I felt like when I was young, did a lot in my head, and thought about that and carried a lot and thought about it a lot. As I've grown older, I'm still curious, but I've learned also to ask the questions, to ask the why behind the why. And I think that's got me far. That's got me far and wide. And that has shaped me my experiences growing up in Kenya, when I went back to Uganda, when I went to China and explored, when I went to work in South Sudan, before and after the independence, when I went to the US, in my farmer world now. Everything I've been doing has been shaped by curiosity. I'm just asking, like, why and why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we'll come to this a bit later, but I know as a young kid, uh, we spoke about you were quite inquisitive,
Yeah.
quite inventive as well, inventing songs and all sorts.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So as I say, we'll come to that a bit later in terms of
Amazing.
your music career. So you obviously did quite well at school. You went to a high school in Kenya. You mentioned that you studied in China. When did the idea of maybe studying abroad, when did that start to percolate in your mind?
Think it's from a very young age. I've always felt like I'm just not constrained by borders,
Mm.
not constrained by the physical limits of things, and I always knew that I wanted to explore and test myself elsewhere. I've always thought myself, or as, and even now, I think of myself as global talent, someone who can shape the world wherever I land, wherever I am. And so I just always knew I was going to go somewhere. Where that will be, I just never realized what it was until maybe when I was 15, 16, when I started realizing there was a lot of chatter, a lot of interest in what's happening in China. I met people who had studied in China before. I'd heard of scholarship schemes and others. And I said, like, oh, I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and see how I get myself there. And so lo and behold, before I even finished high school, like I was in my last year, what they call Form 5, before the last year, Form 6 of high school, I got my scholarship. And I was like, do I get my A levels and tick that box and then go to uni somewhere? Or do I just go to China to university where I've qualified without my A levels? And I was like, weigh the option. I said, like, I'll do it. And
Wow.
went to China, I remember just went with one bag on my back with two trousers, two shirts, my underwear, and maybe like $100 or so that my family and others had collected from friends and elsewhere. And
Okay.
off I was to start my new life.
Well, I'm very glad you took some underwear, because
Yes,
that's very
indeed,
important.
indeed. I've been in situations.
I mean, that's
where-
just really sort of interesting, the
yeah,
fact that you decided to go to China.
yeah,
I mean, other people would have gone to maybe the States,
yeah,
Australia,
yeah,
even the UK, mainly purely for the language reason. But you
yeah.
decided actually to go to China, and I'm guessing you had to learn
Yes.
another language.
Yes, I had to learn the language.
Yeah.
And it's almost, it feels like a theme in my life where, and my wife hates me for this, but I feel like I find the most difficult way to make my life difficult Like if you give me an easy option or the hard option, I'll go for the hard option. And maybe that's what I was doing from that time on. And yes, I left Uganda at that time to go to China, not speaking the language at all. I went and did 1 year of Chinese language instruction.
Okay.
So I did 6 months of, well, 4 or 5 months of conversational Chinese to learn how to speak the language, how to order food, how to engage with people. And then I did 3 months of physics, chemistry, and biology again, high school physics, chemistry, and biology in Chinese again to get me ready for medical school, which I then entered. And because I was a scholarship student, the deal was come to our country, you study for free, we'll take care of you, but you have to learn everything in our language. And so my whole course, from my lectures to my exams to my tutorials to my practicals, everything was fully Mandarin Chinese.
Wow, what a challenge. I mean, I can only imagine how challenging that would have been. I mean, I can just remember how I thought my essays and so forth were quite challenging, and that was in English. So having to learn a completely new language and do medical essays and do like the equivalent of ViiVs in Mandarin, that must have been hugely challenging.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds difficult, but actually, I mean, we in the Western world we learn medicine and we go back to the Latin phrases and everything else. So I keep on telling people, like in medical school, what you call, like, say, cancer of the stomach, right? You don't call it cancer of the stomach. You have to call it gastric carcinoma is what you write. That's the flowery language you use. But in Chinese, cancer of the stomach is cancer of the stomach, like, so the normal quote unquote language is what you use in medicine as well. So you just have to grapple with the scientific concepts and not the language. And once you crack the nut of the language, then you're in. So
Okay.
loved it.
So you've referred to this time. I mean, you were there for 5 years.
Yeah.
You went to medical school there. You have referred to this time as probably the most transformative experience in your life. Do you still stand by that? And why? Why was it so transformative?
Well, for a number of reasons, like everything was just incredible. But I'd say two of them. One sort of medical, one more personal, so to speak. The one medical like was I made so many friends, so many mentors. The willingness for everyone to just teach me and support me and to make me better was incredible. I was in a class of 2,000 students.
Wow.
And we do our lectures. And in that lecture, the teacher will look and see, like, there's someone missing in this class. I can't tell who, but there's someone missing. And because I was the only black, I was only foreign, I was the only black person in the class. If I miss class, they go like, someone's missing. Something is missing here. Serufusa's missing. Can you go and get him from the dormitory? Can you bring? So they pulled me by my ears from the dorm, bring me back to class. I had to have to study. Every practical, they'll say like, you've all learned, but Serufusa, you're going to represent this school, this class when you go out there into wherever part of the world you go to. Have you understood? Do you know how to do this? And so they gave me extra attention, which I feel elevated me. And I made so many friends, from the lecturers, from the professors to others. And even last year, we went on holiday with the family, and I went on holiday to Beijing, Shanghai, and Qingdao. And we went on that trip with my medical school classmates, and they have kids my kids' age, and they were talking about life. So I made lifelong friends, which continue to happen and to flourish. So that I really enjoyed. But on a personal level, I think one thing that changed me as well was, unfortunately, when I was in my third year of medical school, my mother passed away in Uganda. She passed away. She had TB, which I didn't know about and which no one knew about. And I remember calling her, and she telling me like, oh, I keep on coughing and this cough can't go away. Can you find something? Can you send me something from China? Because you guys have different treatments there. And then she just became really unwell. Eventually she got diagnosed with TB. It was too late. Then the drugs were too powerful, too toxic. And then she had malaria while she had the TB drugs, and then that tipped her over and she passed away. And I mean, I've gone through years of therapy for this. I even wrote a song about it, and it's out there on Spotify and other platforms. So that experience of losing my mom, one of my biggest supporters, my probably my biggest supporter and my biggest influence in life, really transformed me, because I just learned how it just takes a village to get us to where we want to. It takes a lot of drive and passion. It takes a lot of resilience. I felt like I wanted to quit medical school and go back to Uganda and be with my family and with others, but I think I had to be resolute. I had to be firm. I had to stay strong. I had to keep my eyes on the prize. And I think that was probably one of the earliest shocks I've had in my life.
Yeah.
And it transformed me a lot, but also kept me going. And even up to now, like, I dedicate a lot to my mom and to what she did for me and for my brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been really, really tough, particularly being away from Kenya
Yeah.
and not kind of, I guess, in your own mind, not feeling that you could have any impact because you're not even in the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about that.
Thank you.
And you mentioned that you've made loads of friends in China. I mean, how were you received? You mentioned that you were the only Black person on the course of
Yes.
2,000 students.
Yeah.
So how was that as well, adjusting?
Yeah, so my class was 2,000, but in the whole school, we were like 10,000 of us. So, and I think I was probably the second Black person, and literally very few foreigners at that time. I had the best time in my life. I had the best time in China. Because at that time was this beautiful time when China had just joined the World Trade Organization. China had just won the Olympics. So there was this reception and interest in anything foreign and different. And at that time, and maybe even up to now, the biggest influence was America to China. And at that time, the two biggest American influences on China were the NBA and McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
And so I would walk everywhere and people would think like I'm from the NBA, or like they love that. And I was 17, 18, and that time you go into a club, and I used to have hair at that time, just for the avoidance of doubt.
I've seen some pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone wants to touch my hair. Like, you know, everyone wants to hang out with me. Everyone buys me free drinks. Everyone wants to be my friend. Parties everywhere. So I had the best reception ever. People received me well. And so people would be would be shocked to see a Black person walking on the streets. But I might as well have been green or an alien. It was not because I was Black, it was because I was different that so I'd walk along the street and some kids would scream and run away because they'd never seen a Black person. But then some kids would be like, they'd come to me and be curious, ask me like, so where are you from? What do you do? And want to touch me and want to touch my skin and to feel how I was. And they'd become curious and friends. So I took it, I think I took it as lots of curiosity about me. And I took it in with all best intentions from my colleagues and from others who ask me questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned before that you've always had a passion for music, and this started to become more visible in China, of all places. So how did this actually come about, this, you know, your talent for performing?
Well, I feel like I've always been performing. I feel like music has always been part and parcel of our life from when we were kids, like just doing musical. I remember when I was in high school in Uganda as well, like doing either we used to mime or we used to do dance-offs and everywhere. So performing and music was always part and parcel of that. But for me, it became really big when I was in China, when I discovered that actually there was a lot I could contribute to that space and a lot to do. I entered a competition, which was called, like, it was the Chinese version of China Got Talent. So like of that, and I ended up being second in the country. And
so this is on TV?
On TV.
Oh, wow.
And so the groundswell of support going up, like mobilizing people to vote for me, mobilizing, getting ready for my performances. I just loved the energy. I just loved it all. And people came to support me and all that. And so I was second, and I did lots of rapping, lots of engaging. And the thing I did, I said, I'm not going to do anything in English. I'll do everything in Mandarin Chinese. So all my raps, all my performances were in Mandarin Chinese, and I was second. So that just took things over. So I got a manager after that, a manager in mainland China, a manager in Hong Kong, and I used to perform across. I did tours. I remember I did lots of these tours and performed with all these big Chinese stars, and I was in motorcades and going to all these amazing venues and other stuff. And also, that's how I got pocket money through my stay in China, because the good thing about rap music is, yes, you can have a band, but you can also do beats. And I used to produce beats as well. So I'd produce beats in my room, then turn them, and after that I'd book, my manager would book me like, you're performing at this club at 11 o'clock on this day, on a Tuesday, and you have like a 10-minute set and you're getting this amount of money. So I study, I do my prep in the evening up to 9 o'clock. I go and shower. I put on my razzmatazz, my gear. I walk into the club at 10:45. 11 o'clock, I'm on stage. I'm performing. My backup dancers, I'm all that's done. By 11:30 midnight, I'm done. I'm out and I'm back to bed, asleep. And at 8 o'clock, I'm in class again for the next day of classes. So it was a good gig. I loved it. So I did that for a long time, and best time ever.
I mean, just for the folks at home,
Yeah.
you mentioned you was on this TV program. At one stage, you were performing to millions on TV, right?
Yes, I did. I did
You
lots of.
performed to like 30,000 people at one performance.
Yeah. It was actually 60,000.
60,000.
I did a
right.
stadium. I did
Okay.
one of the big stadiums with some of the big stars, and
Mm.
so did huge performances in front of loads of people for that. New Year was a big time as well. Like, they would pull me out for performances and do TV stations and other places. And as I said, the biggest influences in China, like, were just like black culture, like hip hop, R&B was so big, so much reception, and so they just loved me for doing that.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've had many other guests
Yeah.
that have had such a separate kind of career in the background as
Yeah.
well. So great. So you get through medical school, but you made the decision not to stay in China and become a doctor in China. You actually decided to go to Uganda.
Yes.
What was
Indeed.
the reason for doing that?
Well, I mean, life was too good. Life was too good in China. I was really enjoying myself, but I felt like, gosh, the reason why I went to China was to give back. Once again, goes back to what my mom taught me and everyone, like, be eyes on the prize, North Star, know what you're doing. And I felt like my job was to give back. The people of Uganda had sent me to China to represent them and to come back and make a big difference to the lives and livelihood of people in Uganda. And I felt like I had to go back to Uganda. So I went back to Uganda, worked at the largest hospital in Uganda, Mulago Hospital, which is the National Referral Hospital, and just kept on working there. Like, did lots of work over there, did my internship all over again, worked as a hospital doctor, and then went and did some training to be a neurosurgeon. And so did that for a while. And then after that, went to South Sudan.
So this podcast has been brought to you in collaboration with the Black British Business Awards, and Serufusa won the Senior Leadership Award in the STEM category last year in 2025. So we've got some quick fire questions for him relating to the actual awards. So Serufusa, do you, I mean, obviously you remember you kind of winning the award, but what inspired you to put yourself forward in the first place?
I did not put myself forward.
Okay.
I was nominated.
I see. Do you know who nominated you?
I have no idea.
You still don't know? Okay.
Thank you to whoever you are out there.
Okay.
Must have been someone in GSK
Okay.
who nominated me for the award. But thank you so much for, one, just being my sponsor, by looking out for me, putting me forward for this. And I think it just turned out to be really amazing because of putting others forward and really championing the work of others, which is what we should all be doing.
Excellent. I didn't know that you that person still remains anonymous. I thought at some point you would probably sort of realize who it was, but that, in fact, that's quite That's lovely, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're out there in the world, and you're not quite sure who they are.
Yeah.
What does the recognition mean to you? You know, personally and professionally. The fact that you won, I was there.
Yeah.
In fact, we were both there,
Yeah.
and we saw you. You know, make your speech.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you? The fact that you've won.
I think winning the Black British Business Award was such a tremendous honor. I think it means so much to me because to be recognized by my peers, to be recognized by the village, the community that is there to support and drive me is so important. Like it hits home in so many ways. But also the external validation, the signal that it sends out there that one, that I'm a leader, recognized by others, has a knock-on effect on how others see me and how others value me. It shouldn't take that for that to happen, but that's how the world works. And this has meant so much because it's just put me out there on a platform, on a pedestal that I never thought I could imagine. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. Like it's now like many months after, but I feel like I'm still reaping the benefits of. That's why I'm here today.
Well, just on that point, I mean,
Yeah.
how has it expanded your network, and you know what doors have opened for you since winning the award?
I think it's opened quite a number of doors, and the doors, I call them conversations, mostly conversations by other leaders in my company, and also want to know like, oh, so you won this, like why did you win and how did you, what happened, so I can talk about my work and talk about the things that we're doing for not only as that I'm doing for to drive uh equity, inclusion across the whole world, but also in the company that I'm in, but also to talk about the work that I'm doing in the corporate setting to drive forward, to get to solutions that we need to have for the world. So it's opened loads of conversations professionally, personally as well. Like now, I mean, I get family who've not talked to me in ages now, like reaching out to me to talk to me. Like, so it's just wonderful to have that and people wishing me well. And it's just been a wonderful, wonderful ride.
Brilliant. So
Yeah.
family who are not in the UK, internationally, and they're still reaching out to you about this award.
Yes.
It shows you the reach of this award, doesn't it?
It does. It's such an amazing, even up to now, like people still reaching out to me. And funny enough, like even just a few seconds, before I walked into this podcast, someone who I've not talked to in maybe 15 years
Okay.
reached out to my company's LinkedIn account and said, this is a message for Serufusa. Like, we're so proud of him for what he did. I was like, I don't know why they didn't contact me directly. That's smart. They went out on LinkedIn and contacted the company. So yes, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So
Great.
I'm glad.
And just finally, I mean, looking forward, what's next for you? You know, what do you plan to do to build on this recognition?
It's a good question. So I think, and I mean, the night I won was a blur. And I remember standing there and I can't for the life of me remember what I said or how I said it. And I just remember blurting out stuff in English, in Chinese. I may have spoken in my mother tongue as well, Luganda or elsewhere. But I think one thing that I remember then is I made a promise to keep on fighting the good fight, keep on causing good trouble, to keep on inspiring others, to keep on the legacy and just driving forward for what we need for the world and for everything else. And so since then, I think it's what I continue doing. Like I just go back to my day job being fighting, striving for excellence, taking us forward, elevating others in what I'm doing. So I keep on doing the same things, probably with more energy now, probably with a bigger platform now, but it's still the same. Like eyes on the prize and keep on driving forward.
Love that. Love that. And I particularly love the phrase causing good trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to find out more about the Black British Business Awards, you can do so by visiting the website, the BBBAwards.com. I mean, I actually forgot to ask you because we've been talking so much about the music career, but why did you want to become a doctor so much in the beginning? Because I know, you know, sort of more subsequently, you've kind of stepped away from being frontline doctor. But back in the early days, you know, getting into medical school, what was the motivation for becoming a doctor?
So it wasn't. I mean, for me, what made me get into medicine was I just love problem solving. I love figuring out what makes A B and what makes B C and D, and working with people to drive them towards that, to drive through that line of logic to make sense,
Yeah.
is what I loved the most. And the doctors that I knew in Uganda, in Kenya when I was growing up, were really good at that.
Okay.
And I think that's a really key skill, because a lot of the doctors in sub-Saharan Africa, because we don't have as much diagnostics at our disposal, when someone comes into the emergency room and elsewhere, you can't just send them to do a CT scan or an MRI scan straight away. You have to work through the diagnosis with what you have, look at the patient and do all that stuff, and then make an informed choice that is cost effective, but that will help you get to the answer. And
Yeah.
that idea of solving for those problems, that problem solving mindset, was really what drew me into medicine. And it served me really well, because as I've transitioned from frontline medicine into now in the pharma world and into the corporate world, it's still the same skill. I feel like I'm using the same skills, which is problem solving.
Mm.
How do you get from A to B to C and D, and help bring people on that journey
Yeah.
while using your resources in the most efficient way, and just driving the culture that helps to drive that. So that's what got me into medicine, as well as the idea of just giving back
Yeah.
and contributing to the community. And I felt like that was one of the, at least at that time, one of the few options I felt I had. When I was in Uganda or in Kenya. Now, if given a choice, I'd probably have been a musician, maybe as well. Like
Yeah.
that would have been my first choice. So I could have gone into something like advertising or marketing as well. But at that time, I didn't feel like those were options that were open to me. So
Okay.
medicine was what I went into.
And was there somebody in the family, or like a family friend, that was already a doctor that you could almost like, model, or were you the first?
I was the first.
Oh, wow, you paved the way.
I was the first. I
Okay.
paved the way.
Okay.
So my granddad, my dad's dad, was actually a vet.
Oh, okay.
So that's a different kind of
Yeah.
doctor. So I
Great.
blazed the trail,
Okay.
but that was exciting because I figured it out.
Yeah.
And hopefully with what I've done, the way I've done it, I've inspired the next generation of people in my family and also to see medicine as a career that they can follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So you mentioned before that you left the job in Uganda, and you decided to work and take a job in South Sudan. Now, just again for people at home, this was before the Civil War. I think this was maybe 3 or 4 years before the Civil War.
Yeah.
You ended up there for over a year, I believe, back
Yeah.
in 2009. How
Yeah.
did you find it in South Sudan?
Ooh, it was wild west.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
okay.
It was not the time of the civil war,
Yeah.
and I think it's I mean, South Sudan, especially, has gone through a lot of turmoil, civil strife, wars, and everything else. But that time I went the year just before independence, and was there during the time of independence and after independence from the North Sudan. It was a time of great hope,
Okay.
a time of, like, if you've ever felt like, I mean, when you hear people like the Nelson Mandela speak about the time that they were getting ready for the transition of power, when you hear about what people like in Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta and others were speaking about, or Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana and also, like, if you imagine that kind of hope and spirit and energy that people had, that's what was there in South Sudan at the time. And it was a great time to be there, and there was minimal resources, even less so than Uganda or Kenya. I went there to run one of the largest private medical institutions in South Sudan. It was a difficult time. I remember we used to live in, there were no hotel rooms at that time. You either used to stay in a camp tent or in a prefabricated container. That's where we used to stay.
Okay.
So lots of patients, really difficult time, but great hope, great energy. And it was just a wonderful way to really test my skills in terms of building something from the bottom up, working with different people, working in a different culture, and just really giving back to the community as well, because we used to volunteer and work for the South Sudan AIDS Commission as well. I used to work at the Juba Teaching Hospital as well to give back whenever I could. So it was just a really wonderful time.
Yeah, I wonder how some of your ex-colleagues are now. I mean, you know, after the war,
Yeah.
I hope things have,
Yeah.
you know, panned out
Yeah,
as well
it's
as they
it's
could
it's
have.
difficult, and actually,
Yeah.
I'm still in touch with some of
Oh,
them,
okay.
and actually,
Yeah.
one of them came and stayed at our home last year,
Okay.
from South Sudan. But yes, it is a difficult
Mm,
time, but a time of big transition. Yeah, a lot has happened in that
yeah.
country
Yeah.
since then, and lots to learn, lots to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after this, you decided to go to the States and
Yeah.
study at Harvard.
Yes.
And was it a master's that you were studying?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay. Okay. So why did you feel at that point that you wanted to, you know, go back and study?
Um, problem solving.
Mm,
Problem solving. I felt like, having worked in Uganda, having worked in South Sudan, I realized that the things I was solving for were small, in the grand scheme of things, small and minute.
so patient to patient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
patient to
Yeah. Yeah.
patient, right?
Yeah.
And in clinical medicine, I think it's a great thing to do, and kudos to everyone who's still on the front line and doing that. But with that, it sometimes felt like the way to make impact is to go deeper and be more specific.
Mm,
Whereas I feel like I thrive in the broad and the wide and the big picture.
yeah.
And I felt like I needed to step out and, one, get some time out. That's why I went to study, to really think about the big problems of not just Kenya, Uganda, or China, but of the whole world, and be with peers and others who can help me walk through these problems and think through and understand methodologies about to do that. And I was very lucky to get a scholarship to go to Harvard University to do that. And I just engaged with some of the best and the finest in the world, and made lots of friends who are still friends and connections up to now. And it was, once again, a transformative experience for me, just really figuring out and having the space to think about some of the big problems in the world and trying to make a dent in some of those.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, this was a scholarship, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
paid for by Harvard, or was it by the Ugandan government, or like
By Harvard. So this
by
was
Harvard? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, it was really good. And I think what I was lucky to have was to have professors and mentors who still continue to be mentors, who
Mm,
saw something in me and said, like, we want to nurture that and help him get the best that he can be at that.
mm.
And I was just lucky to have that, and kept me going.
Yeah. So as you say, mixing with some of the best of the best in healthcare,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they've gone on across the world to do great things.
Yeah. And also on that, I mean, one of the important skills that I learned from that,
Mm,
which was, and I think it's something that, going back once again, growing up in Kenya and in Uganda and in all the other places that I've been, where I've learned to find an answer to every problem that I see. And I try to solve for every problem that I see and have. The one thing that I learned when I was there was, actually, it's even more important to know what you know and know what you don't know. And for what you know, focus your time and energy on doing that. For what you don't know, find the right people who can do that and manage that. And that's how you change the world. And for me, that was the one lesson I learned during my time at Harvard. Like,
so you don't
just
need to do everything.
I don't need to do
If you don't
everything.
know stuff, you can delegate that to other people
Delegate.
who better know how to
Yeah.
fix.
So the
Yeah.
trick is in finding those people
Mm.
and surrounding yourself with a team that helps to do that supplements, that augments your strengths,
Yeah.
but also that supplements or can buffer where you're less strong at.
Excellent. So it seems like, you know, after doing that, that was a bit of a catalyst into you, as you mentioned before, kind of leaving frontline medicine. And after leaving Harvard, you actually took a job as a consultant.
Yes.
You came back to the UK, found a job in Oxford, working for the Oxford Policy Management. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
So yeah, how did you get that job, and what led you to take that job?
It's interesting because this
Mm,
is almost like, I've been so lucky. It's been a running theme. And I said, I've had great mentors in life, but what I've learned makes the biggest difference is sponsorship, which is mentorship is, if put it black and white, mentorship is I guess more behind the scenes. It's more reactive. It's like, I'll tell you, Tunde, this is how you do this. This is how you go for an interview. This is what you do. But sponsorship is more active. It's like, when you're not in the room, I will be there and vouch for you. I will speak for you.
Sure.
I will make sure you're in places where you can't be or where you're not. And I've been lucky to have amazing sponsors. So I had a sponsor when I was at Harvard who said, I think you're amazing. And I think with your attitude for problem solving, your curiosity that you have, management consultancy is where you want to go to, is where you'd want to go to test yourself, to really explore and work over multiplicity of things and ideals. And so he recommended me for this job. I just rocked up for the interview. My first time in the UK was that time. So I went here. I remember I went for the interview in Oxford, and I'd never been in an interview in the Western world. And so I was nervous. So before the interview, I went into the toilet, and I saw a red string hanging from the ceiling. And obviously in Uganda and in other cultures, sometimes you have the ceiling light is a light that you just pull and the light comes on.
Oh, I see.
What I didn't realize, that was the disabled alarm in the toilet.
Okay, yeah.
So, so before my interview, I walk into the toilet and then I pull the string, and then everyone comes in, and it's this guy who's turned up for the interview, who's all flashed, and anyway, so embarrassing. But
all right.
they forgave me clearly because they gave me the job. And I think that was just a wonderful 4 or 5 years working in that space, where I worked with in the field of international development. So I worked with the World Health Organization. I worked with UNICEF. I worked with all these huge entities, but also worked with really interesting work with private equity, with high net worth individuals looking to make investments in Africa and the rest of the world, investing in hospitals, in driving medical tourism and others. And so I was really lucky, and I had the best of them. And I think I really enjoyed myself, because that time in 2015, 2016, I won Britain's Young Consultant of the Year award. So recognized by my peers and others for the work that I've done. But goes back to the theme of, one, had a good sponsor, and I've had sponsorship has taken me through. Two, I applied myself, and I know, like, I love solving problems, and that played to my skills in terms of solving for problems and just really driving the culture that helps us and others get to that. And so I worked on, not only did I work in healthcare, but I remember there was one time I worked and helped to set up national censuses in Uganda. I worked in Malawi, working on really diverse education policy in Malawi. There's one time, how do you make the best tech investments in a place like Sierra Leone or other parts of the world? How do you bring in medical tourism that will work between Senegal, the Gambia, and Scotland? So multiplicity of problems. Breadth is what I've always looked for, and that really played to my strength.
Great. So this job, even though it was based in Oxford, it still allowed you to keep a foot in Africa, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, in 2015, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also the year that you married your wife.
Yes.
Where did you meet? Was it at Harvard?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Oh, yes, indeed.
How did you meet? What was it through? Like one of the courses, or is it socially that you met?
All those.
All the above. Okay.
All the above.
Okay. All right.
Actually, and the way we met was actually auditioned for her. So she loves music as well.
Okay.
And especially she loves dancing. And so while we were at Harvard, we had this cultural show that the school used to put up every year. We used to call it I Night, International Night. And so it's the culmination of the year, big celebration and all that. And she was one of the organizers for that, and was in charge of what the musical and other performances were going to be. And so for all of us who wanted to participate in that show, we had to go and audition to this lady who
Yeah.
and then that's when we became friends after that.
Okay.
And we knew about each other then from this. We were in the same course and we studied together, but we were actually not together. So we only came together when she is from the UK, and so I luckily got a job in the UK. And as you do when you rock up into a country and you've made all these friends from before, the first thing you do is you tell your friends, hey, I'm in the country,
Yeah.
show me the best places to hang out.
Okay.
What's the deal?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
one thing led to another.
Okay, as they do, as they do.
Indeed.
So your wife is also a doctor, just
Yeah.
for folks at home.
Yeah.
That's great. So we're moving forwards. Spent 4 years at Oxford Policy Management, and then as we say, you got married in 2015, and then actually in 2015 as well, you kind of slightly pivot, and you end up working for the Aspen Institute, but this was in Washington.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
you go back to the States, and you take up a job working. It's like a think tank, isn't it? The Aspen Institute.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so we got married in 2014, and then we spent a period of time here. And yes, Aspen Institute is a think tank. I think it's a non-partisan think tank based in DC, which once again goes back to, I've always said, problem solving, but I also like to bring people together. And so what it does, it brings people from across the aisle to engage on various aspects of mostly US policy, US community, US others, but also doing that internationally as well. And that's what I was there mainly for. But I think the way it does that is by bringing people towards this Socratic community way of reviewing. And it goes back to the main thing I learned while I was there is how you start a conversation, how you bridge people from across the aisle, Republican, Democrat, whatever it is by asking them, what are your values? Can we agree on our values? And more often than not, our values intersect, or we can agree on that our values intersect, and that is where the conversation begins. So whether they're talking about immigration policy, whether they're talking about rates of incarceration, whether they're talking about food and livelihood, whether they're talking about women, children, or Black men in America, if you start talking about the core values that drive you, then it really bridges the gaps that we have. And so I had a wonderful time working at the Aspen Institute, and it just brought lots of people together, worked with amazing people, and also had loads of fun because the Aspen Institute also has campuses in Aspen, in Denver, in Colorado.
Okay.
And so, as lots of people know, it's an amazing place to be. Lots of skiing over there, lots of podcasts. And so one of my best memories was just being on stage with Elmo, the puppet from Sesame Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And there with the Surgeon General of America, who's the big medical healthcare policy sort of leader in the government, and just talking about vaccination, talking about immunization, and privileged to have Elmo, the puppet from Sesame Street, on stage. And so those are some of the amazing things that we did there. But my main work was focused really on building leadership and management capabilities and resources in low middle income countries, and using private sector tools, resources, and ideas to really bring that forward. So how do you have a management dashboard like we do in the corporate world? How do you use these amazing tools and toolkits that you have, training that you have? How do you bring in performance reviews every quarter or every 6 months to really make sure that people are progressing as they should? So I think that was the main thing that I was doing while I was at the Aspen Institute.
So is it right you were advising some systems in Africa as well at the same time?
Yeah, it was. So and at that time, big focus was on Sierra Leone, was on Malawi,
Okay.
was on Kenya at that time. And it was a difficult time as well for Africa, because that was the time of the Ebola epidemic.
Yeah.
And so we're really helping to build up all that by piggybacking or by building up the community health worker programs in those geographies, because they are the backbone of the healthcare institution and got things going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you worked there for 2 years. That was in Washington, and then your next job happens to be kind of where you are now, but this is like the first step in where you are now. Ended up working for GSK, one of the biggest kind of pharmaceutical companies globally. In 2017, you take up a job as director for policy and partnerships, and this was back in London.
Yes,
So
indeed.
you're back to the UK.
Yes.
Now, I because you've worked in so many different places, I wanted to ask you. I mean, now you've got married.
Yeah.
I'm guessing by this point you've probably had at least one kid by this point.
Yes.
What is the impact on your family, like your wife and your kids? Because I know, as we discussed, your wife is also a doctor.
Yeah.
How does it impact the family?
Many ways. Some positive, some
Okay.
not.
Okay.
The positives are we are a family that's curious. We are a family that's welcoming of all and any influences. And living in the US, living here, we've traveled in many geographies. My kids are, and yes, that time we had one child and now we have two kids.
Okay.
My kids are fluent in Mandarin Chinese as well.
Brilliant.
So they speak the language, and we just soak in everything. We love dancing. So we do Bharatanatyam dancing, which is Indian classical dancing. We do hip hop. My kids do that. And they recently performed at the Barbican Center as well in front of 2,000 people. My kids 9 and 7 now do that. So it's positive because we've all these various influences moving around has really allowed us to be more malleable and to soak it in. And goes back to, I think we know the core value is we are together as a family. We look out for each other. We listen out to each other. And so we really love that. But having said that, I mean, clearly it's not all rosy, right? Because my wife had to sacrifice her career leaving the NHS here to when we moved to the US. So she took time out. So that impacted how fast she was progressing to becoming a consultant. She's now a consultant here, but it took a time off. So that's definitely a difficult piece as well. But also for us, I mean, with my work, with my travel and elsewhere, it's not so easy because sometimes it's great to be there for the pickups, the drop-offs, to be there for all those things. So some of that stability is lost, but we look at it on the big picture, which is we're gaining quite a lot in terms of experiences, friends, networks, anywhere. And I keep on saying, like, you throw me anywhere in the world and I'll either find a cousin, and that has happened, by the way, anywhere in the world. Like, we rocked up in the family. We rocked up one day, we went to we decided to take a break from family, and we went to Turkey on holiday and Istanbul, and we go to near the Blue Mosque, and lo and behold, we bump into family.
No way.
In Turkey, yeah.
How?
Just they were there on holiday, and because we didn't tell people on holiday too, they were there too. So I have family everywhere in the US. Here, I probably have more family than most people who were born and bred in the UK here. So for us, I mean, great, lots of family, but also traveling for work and with being in various geographies allowed us to make loads of friends. And so we have really friends who are almost like family as well, who are family and who have stayed strong and shared with us. So that's been a very positive impact on us as a family, and we've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I mention that is because I work in recruitment, and some of the jobs that I've worked on over the years have been, international, and the people that have applied for the jobs or that we've headhunted for the jobs don't happen to be based in that country. So it involves relocation of the whole family. And what you see sometimes is that the person that gets the job obviously gets the visa and they're able to work in that country. But oftentimes the partner is not able necessarily to get the job so quickly, and it
Yeah.
might take them a while. And in some cases, they're just not able to get a job at all. So it can have an impact on the family, and obviously the kids having to go to another school. So it seems glamorous, but it's not all the reality. It's not
Yeah.
always so glamorous
Yeah.
for the family as a whole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I
yeah.
think it's about the intentionality of
Mm,
it.
mm.
Like it's about, as with any move, whether you're moving house from one part of the street to another, from one borough of London to another, from one city to another, or moving country as well, the intentionality of it, the conversations that you have, the how you walk through that, it
Yeah,
has to be very intentional and deliberate, because it has an effect.
yeah.
And some of those effects you don't see, you don't realize until later on. Some you see almost immediately, but I think you can just being intentional about it, talking through it is what gets you through that.
Now, one of your kind of sort of major achievements that I think even the Black British Business Awards noted
Yeah.
when you won the award was the fact that you co-led, and I think you're still co-leading this ERG for racial diversity, and as part of this leadership, you managed to take it from a kind of UK-based organisation to kind of expanding it globally. And I might have got some of that wrong, but
Yeah.
how can you talk us through a little bit about that? Like, how did you come to become a co-lead, and how did you expand it across the organization? Because GSK is a I think 70,000
Yeah,
person
yeah.
business, isn't it?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah.
And I led it up to last year, so I
Oh,
did
okay,
that for 3 years.
okay,
And it goes back to, I think, when I mean it's about what you can do to give back. And that's number one. But then number two, those are really important leadership positions.
yeah,
And the skills and the opportunities that I gained from that experience have helped me in my day job and have helped me progress in what I do. So you can do good, but also do well by taking up these ERG leadership positions. And yes, I mean, it was a, a time of, and we've seen in the world, we went through the time of George Floyd, we went through the time of Trayvon Martin, we went through the time of Black Lives Matter and all that turmoil and such. And so I just felt like I really wanted to give back. I really wanted to be at the forefront to speak boldly, loudly about the experiences of not just black, the black community, but also other ethnic minorities across the world. And that's why I stepped up into this leadership position of Embrace, which is the EIG group in GSK. And with my fellow colleague, there were two of us. Her name is Nabila. I think we really worked hard to build this organization from just primarily UK based to having um, chapters in other parts of the world, more than 20 chapters. A lot of work, but really loved it. Gave us a platform to really make a lot of change in GSK, but also inspire other ERGs in the pharma world and even in other parts of the corporate entity. We won a number of awards as an ERG as well. But I think it's the lives that we impacted. Colleagues who came to us and said, like, gosh, either they'd come to us and say, this is happening to me. Can you speak up for us about what's happening here? We are somewhere in a factory somewhere, and because it's Ramadan, because it's this, I need to fast, and I need to make sure, I'm afraid of taking time off to go and break my fast. Can you advocate for me so that people are more vocal about their support for Ramadan, so that I can feel more, I don't feel like I'm making an excuse when I'm asking for time to go and break my fast and do my iftar, for example. So all that diversity, I think it was so wonderful to be able to speak up and champion that for people and what to give back, but also the opportunity for people to see like what minority leaders can do and show up as strong leaders to challenge, to agitate, to push for change, to educate was just really, really empowering. And really, I slept really, really well many, many nights when I went back. I felt like, gosh, we made such a difference. And it was also a wonderful opportunity to meet and talk to lots of people, both across the company and elsewhere.
so actually it's a really influential role, isn't it, within the organization? Quite a political um quite a political role, I guess, in many ways.
Yeah, it is a leadership
Yeah,
role.
yeah.
And I think one thing that we advocated for, and I think we should do that for other EIGs in other companies, these should be looked at as key talent roles that add to anything else that you're doing. The stuff I learned about stakeholder management, influencing without authority, directing, managing with minimal resources, those serve me really, really well in my day job and in everything that I've done.
Now, before we come on to your current role, which is still within the GSK kind of family,
Yeah.
Going back to the music career, you came out with your, I don't know if it was debut album, but certainly an album back in 2021
Yeah.
called the Solutionary Manifesto.
Yes, indeed.
Were you at GSK? Yeah, you'd already started at
there.
GSK.
Yeah.
So this is great. I mean, this is brave in many ways, because I know a lot of people out there, they have other, they have other interests in their life, but they don't pursue them because they feel they've got this corporate career and,
Yeah.
will it look badly if I, do a bit of music or a bit of acting or, whatever it is, interior design, whatever it is. But you thought, actually, no, I'm going to, I've done well in my career, but I still have this passion for music. So can you tell us a little bit more about, you coming up with this album? How did it come about?
Yeah, I feel like Jay-Z, the rapper Jay-Z, is one of my idols. And not only because both of us were born on the same day, we share the same birthday.
Oh,
so
right,
you'll have to dig that out.
Okay,
but,
all right.
Obviously, he's much older than I am, just for clarity. But what he's also done, just like Michael Jordan as well did, like people retire and unretire. So I retired from music after my career in the things that I was doing. And I had albums that I'd produced and put out when I was in China and elsewhere. But that was the pre-Spotify days and elsewhere, and most of them are available in China. But I felt like I needed to come back and share some more music and share some more from the position where I was at, the evolution that I've gone. So I've moved on from bling bling and from the partying and from all the other things that I was doing in the clubs at that time to being more of what I call socially conscious music that speaks about the things that I care about now, which I feel like I'm missing in this space. And that's what the Solutionary Manifesto was about. So I had a song about and talked about, I had a song titled like TB and Malaria Killed My Mom, talking about TB and malaria, but doing that with music. I had a song about immigrants because I've always been an immigrant and just felt like how you do that. It's not something about loving one another, something about China-Africa love, and I worked on that song with a Chinese artist, a friend of mine who I'd worked with before, bringing all my influences together to really bring back to where I am in my evolution now and share some of what I was doing. And that's how the album came about. And yes, I've always loved writing. And that time I was doing a long tube journey, and during the tube journey, I was just writing music, composing lyrics, working with producers to make the album. And so did that. I've done a couple of songs after that as well, which have been independent single releases. And I'm now working on the next iteration of my album. So watch this space.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Great. So now we come to your current role, which is, again, I mentioned before, still within the kind of GSK family.
Yeah.
But it's actually a separate entity called ViiV Healthcare, and you're now chief of staff, which I know is a very misunderstood role, particularly in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Nobody quite understands what the role is. But are you able to describe what you're because you're working very closely with the CEO, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Being a chief of staff is, in my current role, is what I call SOS. Lots of strategy,
Yeah.
lots of operations, and lots of sandwiches.
Is that your own making? SOS.
I've stolen with pride from someone I've had speak, one of my colleagues. Lots of strategy because I work really in helping either our CEO or our leaders to shape the long-term strategy for the company and shaping how we look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. How do we get from, and I'm lucky to work in the field of HIV. And so we're really working on not only how we get longer acting medicines that will make the burden of HIV even less for those who are living with HIV or who can benefit from prevention, but also making sure that we get to a cure for this. And so working on the long-term strategy on how we get to that as a company. Lots of operations, which is really making sure that the leadership team is effective. Our CEO is as effective as they can be in what they do, really making sure that we have a conducive place in the company for people driving the culture that makes those operations work. And also lots of sandwiches. So if we think we need better toilets, if we think we need there's no food, if we think the coffee machine is broken and people are grumbling about it, like I will figure out how we solve for that. So lots of strategy, lots of operations, but also lots of sandwiches that make sure that everyone's life is as easy as it is. And that's what I tell people when I introduce. I tell them my job is to make your life as easy as possible in the company, regardless of who you are, whether you're the CEO, whether you are an intern who's come there for a 1-year placement in the company. I talk to everyone when I welcome them into the company, when I run those welcome sessions to say, I am here for you to make your life as easy as possible.
I'm guessing it must be, tremendously rewarding as a role.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's there's never a dull day. And I know that sounds cliche, but I think it's just never a dull day. But the one thing that I learned, which I wanted to get from this role, which I know I'm getting in spades and tons, is the idea that actually what I need to learn is how to adapt my leadership style to get the best out of people. Because you cannot be a one trick pony in terms of a leadership style. Some people are very directive.
Yeah.
Some people are very laid back in what they do. And if you work in finance, that may make you successful there, but it's not what will make you a good enterprise leader. If you work in medical, for example, or in other places, like in external affairs, it may be about how you drive conversations, how you create almost like consensus in that. But that may not be what necessarily makes you a successful CEO or someone. Actually, what makes you a successful CEO is all those things. But the trick is how you deploy them. So how I have a conversation with you, Tunde, when I'm telling you you need to step your game up and I'm performance managing you, is different to a conversation I have with you when you've had a loss in your family, or when things are really difficult, or when I'm all those. But I, as Serufusa, I as the CEO, have to turn up in my own authentic way. I can still be the same person, but how I adapt my leadership style is different, because in my role as chief of staff, this is why I'm learning all this, is I cannot go to my CEO and say like, so and so can't deliver the following because they don't know how to plan.
Yeah.
I cannot deliver the following because so and so is really difficult and hard to work with. I cannot deliver the following for you because so and so is very laid back and takes the time to do stuff. What my CEO cares about is this delivered or not?
Yeah.
Find a way of doing it. I cannot go there with excuses. So what I'm learning is, how do I get the best out of each and every individual to bring out the best in them, to make sure we are keeping our eyes on the prize and doing the best for the company, the patients that rely on us, and the communities who are relying on us, because they cannot wait.
I mean, I'm sure many people would actually be quite surprised that you actually see yourself as an introvert, despite everything that you've done, the music and so forth, putting yourself constantly out there, the traveling, working in different countries, kind of challenging yourself. But I think you've mentioned before that you see yourself as an introvert. How do you lead successfully as an introvert? What for other people out there that are maybe stepping into a leadership role, who are maybe not, extrovert or whatever, what advice would you give them?
If you're an introvert out there, like myself, 2 tactics that I use. One is, I know who I am. So, and I'm very clear to everyone that I'm an introvert. So declaring it, being proud, owning it is super. And I can tell you why it is. But the second thing I do is I also manage my energy. And that's how I go about my life. So one, in sharing it out, I think signposting to people that you're that is super helpful, because then people understand, or you can work with them about how to get the best out of you. So for example, when I turned up for this interview for chief of staff, for example, or for other interviews in the past, I was very clear. I said, I'm an introvert. but this is what it means for me. For example, if I've really worked my energy up and I'm really geared up to stand up in front of people, to speak in the company, I've really almost gathered up the energy for this one particular thing or event. And so give me time to cool down, to calm down, and then maybe a day or two afterwards, give me the feedback and I'll receive it better and I can action it better.
Sure.
So I contracted already. So that's why that's where the signposting is really important. But for me also comes to the second thing about managing my energy, which is I just make sure I don't have like back-to-back meetings as much as I can control. No back-to-back meetings.
Yeah.
I balance my energy between doing, say, performance management for an individual who needs that support to get to better where they are, to a talent conversation, for example, where I'm talking to quote unquote a much easier conversation with an industrial placement student who's looking for career advice, where I can be more chilled, more relaxed, to moving to another meeting, which is then like, say, I am talking about how we can drive our teams even better in what they do, where I have to be more proactive. My energy has to be different. So balancing my day, balancing my energy as such is super important. And I think that's how it's worked for me to make sure that I'm showing up the best I can be as an introvert.
That is so useful. I mean, I consider myself to be an introvert. And as you say, it's more about energy, managing your energy. It's not about how gregarious you are, how friendly you are, how loud or quiet you are. It's about energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is so useful. We are kind of coming towards the end. And one question that we always ask all the guests that come on.
Yeah.
I mean, in your case, you've had tremendous success, not only just in the corporate world,
Thank you.
but in the medical world, in the music world. What do you put your success down to? Is it luck? Is it hard work? Or is it talent? You know, if you had to choose one of the three, what has been the biggest contributor towards your success?
Luck, hard work, or talent
Yeah.
contributed to my success. I'm going to cheat and say it's just a hashtag that has all those three.
Okay.
Hard work, talent,
That's cheating.
and everything else, because it's like asking to choose a favorite child out of those.
Yeah.
Because part of it is luck. Like I've been very lucky to be in the right place at the right time for the mentors and the sponsors that I've had who've helped me to do some of the work that I've done. But that luck, I had to prepare for it. I had to place myself in that context or situation, and that comes through a lot of hard work, the grunt work that I've done in the past, to work on myself, to manage my energy, the qualifications that I've got, and everything else. It's really part of the hard work that I've done over the years to get me to where I am. And the talent, I guess, part of it is just lucky that has been sharpened by the experiences and the hard work and the luck that I've had. You know, like my performing, for example, was all just because I worked hard at it, but also because I was lucky to have parents and others and a generation of families who see and value that and really appreciated that. And so it's all those things come together to make me who I am right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned previously that you consider yourself to have had a portfolio career, which I think is absolutely fair. And I was just wondering, for somebody who wants to have the portfolio career, do you have any tips for them?
Be yourself. Do you. Hashtag do you. That's the tip. Just do you. Do you. And once again, goes back to doing you, being yourself means by you really understanding yourself, understanding your core values, understanding the value proposition that you bring to the table, and using that to navigate your career and through the other things. So my careers may seem random and like a circuit when you look at it. Like, why would someone go to China? Why would someone trying to be a doctor then end up being in consultancy world? Then you end up doing in a think tank. Then like being a corporate world and being a chief of staff. Looks random, but when you look at all those things at the beginning of all this, I said problem solving. I said bringing people on a journey, and culture is how you know what a North Star is, you know what the problem is, You solve for that, and then you bring people on the journey across that. And all these things help me to do that. So even the music that I do allows me to be a better storyteller, allows me to be a better deliverer of the messages that I want to deliver in a simpler way as possible. And that makes me an effective problem solver, an effective corporate leader. So when I see me, I just show up as Serufusa, and whether I'm performing, whether I'm in a corporate world, it's the same thing. I just adapt my style. I adapt my messages depending on who I'm talking to. But at the core of it, it's the same individual, Serufusa.
It's the same.
So stay the same. Do you. #do you.
Great place to end. Serufusa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Thanks so much for Serufusa taking the time out from his busy day to come into the studio. I mean, what a character. I mean, he really has packed it in, hasn't he? And really had a full life. And doing so all with a smile on his face, which is lovely to see. Now, if you want to find out more about his music career, we'll certainly include some links to that in the show notes. And I'm sure there are probably 1 or 2 clips of him on YouTube as well performing. So we'll also include that in the show notes. Now, we talked about portfolio careers towards the end. Do you have a portfolio career? Do you have a range of careers which are as diverse as Serufusa? Let us know. Email us in. The email address is howicrussedit@gmail.com. Thank you once again to the Black British Business Awards for partnering with us on this series. If you want to find out more about the awards, you can do so by visiting the website, and we'll put that in the show notes. The nominations for 2026 are unfortunately closed, but you can keep up to date with who's been nominated by checking out the website. And that's about it. So thank you for joining us this week, and we'll catch you on the next show.